Greetings! You're watching SeptumSin versus the world. I'm SeptumSin. This is Kotobuki Jake. And we have, of course, with us Roger and I don't know from Danejurous Arts. So we got a whole crew is here for our anime Anticlimax. We are kind of ending the year, even though it's January. This is technically our end of the year show. We just came a little bit late to the party because we wanted to celebrate Roger's birthday by giving him his own selection, which is Garden of Sinners. So I will hand the reins over to you, Roger, so you can run us through it and talk to us about your favorite anime, isn't it?
Well, the Garden of Sinners, yeah, it's been my favorite for a while now. Yeah, it's number one out of my something like around something like 2,000 plus title grand grid array. So yeah, I love it.
I wouldn't have guessed. Alrighty. Unfortunately, is anyone else having trouble getting on ANN? I don't seem to be able to bring it up.
I haven't been trying, so
yeah.
Let me try.
Let
me try.
I got IMDb, no problem, but they have all the movies split up into separate headings, and it's very annoying.
I'm on ANN.
What's that?
I'm on it.
I was able to bring the site up, but I wasn't able to go anywhere on it. But I'll try it again.
Well, it's going to be interesting tonight, and I'm glad that you're with us, Roger, because you can do all of the explaining of the complex plot for us.
Well, I'll do the best I can.
Explain.
I'm going to do the best I can. This particular anime is really focused on story content. And you're gonna have some knowledge, a little bit, not a whole lot of knowledge, but at least some knowledge of the Fate universe to make some sorting out of stuff in the anime.
Okay.
But anyways, that's quite a quick overview. This is basically an anime made by, I'd consider made by UFO Table, starting around 2007. It consists of 10 films, kind of like put together, and they have a kind of like a timeline. Where you have a lady named was it Shiki? She has an ability to kill stuff by just looking how they break, and they also have a few other interesting characters. But mostly this show is it's kind of like a weird mix of supernatural and time. It's kind of like slice of life. There's it's kind of hard to tell how to confine it to a single genre, but there's a lot of storyline. There's a lot of genre to talk about, but really this whole series started out as a light novel series, and it was let me see if I can find. But the guy that wrote it name was Kinoko Natsu, and he said, I believe something I remember saying that. He wanted to make a story, 3 times greater than it would be necessary to make an anime out of it or make a show out of it. So he really meant this to be a well thought out, methodical storyline. So this is what I really like about the Garden of Sinners. I've seen my fair share of anime out there, everything from there's no storyline to something extreme like this. And I do agree that this is this is my favorite anime overall. So. And of course, from there, we can of course start talking about some of the characters. Did anybody have a favorite character?
Shouldn't we really start with sort of how we each felt about it or came into it?
Sort of the first
impressions.
Yeah. First impressions.
Okay, I guess we can do that. Sure, let's do first impressions. I said I'm not too good at leading on these little types.
Not a problem.
Hey, practice makes perfect, man.
Yeah.
We've all had it before. It's taken a while.
Kind of guide me along. But anyways, you got a good point there in BI Arts. let's start from the beginning. I guess I'll go left from right. SeptumSin. Was this the first time that you saw Garden of Sinners?
Depends on your definition of Saw, because I saw the set that Aniplex put out. I saw the cover art, and I thought that it looked interesting. So you could say I saw that.
Well, technically you're right, but actually, this is perhaps, yeah. So go on.
But it wasn't until I went ahead and jumped into this, and of course, I've been being more restrained about my buying habits. I know it doesn't look it most of the time, but I usually want to know a property before I buy a property that's expensive like that. The same like a Sentai sale. So I wanted to make sure that I liked it first before I checked. So I actually went ahead and I checked it out on Crunchyroll. And I'm of mixed opinion on it. I will just say it off the top. I like the animation. It was really good. The music was really good. All that top quality for me. Loved the action scenes in it. Had a lot of interesting vibes. Maybe it's the fact I was watching it in a sub and it was really hard to follow it along that way. So I would either look at the screen or look at the sub, because some subs I can watch and catch the action at the same time because the conversation is simple enough to follow like that. With this, it was basically I usually had a choice of one or the other because the story was so complex and convoluted. If I was missing a beat there, I was going to miss something. But then I might miss something on the top screen. So, like I say, I got mixed opinions of it. I think it looks good. I'm not sure I would be willing to pay the Aniplex price to have it in the collection. Even though I have all the Fate stuff, this one's disconnected enough that I could not have it in my collection and be okay with it. But I'm glad that I watched it the one time. Definitely there.
Excellent. Just for everybody's reference, the Garden of Sinners was not exactly the easiest of sets to accommodate at first. When I first saw the Aniplex splash screen several years back, they were doing some first advertising on several sets, and I saw the Garden of Sinners. Said, "What? It's up $550? You're absolutely out of your mind." I said, "Hell no!" No matter how much I love Fate, the Fate series. But it wasn't until that Aniplex released another, a more affordable set of 250 smackers that I went ahead and bought the set. At that time, I wasn't, of course, doing any kind of streaming or anything like that. So it definitely was a relief that I was able to get it finally. Of course, later on, fast forward a few years, I did eventually get the ultimate set. So I definitely did come in my collection eventually. So it was something that was almost like fate that would happen. Okay, and Kabuki Jake, what was your impressions of Garden of Sinners?
Well, much like with Brandon, I had known of this one for a while. And he didn't really say it, but I know he had a long-standing policy of largely avoiding Aniplex titles unless he was familiar with them, because he did not want to be on the hook to buy them.
Yeah.
And I am kind of like that too, although I'm more hit or miss. I have accumulated a lot of Aniplex titles, a few of which I have not seen, but mostly it's like some of them are ones I've been reading the manga, and like I recently got The Promised Neverland, and I had to have that. But from what I've heard of season 2, I probably will not get that even if Aniplex releases it. So it's like, but with this one, the price tag was so high, and I didn't realize that they were like legit movies. If you look at it that it's a collection of movies, it makes more sense that the price tag is so high, but still. And I knew that it was a very high rated series. I checked before we got on, and currently ANN has it at 42, which is not bad. That's a pretty respectable ranking. I think it was actually brushing at least the top 20 for a while there. So I've been curious about the show. I had no clue whatsoever until we were halfway through the series, and Roger, you said straight up that it was connected to the Fate series. Fate is another series I have largely avoided because it's most Aniplex.
Oh, no.
And because it's
Welcome to the Massiverse.
The only parts I have are the parts Sentai released because they're the only parts that are affordable. And the only part of the whole Aniplex part that I've seen is the first episode of Fate Zero, which Brandon showed me. So all those references were pretty much over my head. I did not get those connections except recognizing Rin in the opening stop motion sequences, which I will say, I love those stop motion sequences. I absolutely love them. They are great. And,
favorite part of the series.
Yes. As far as the series as a whole, I did find it is a gorgeously animated series by my perspective. I love the music. I think the production is really solid. I got that same impression from the Fate stuff I've seen, particularly Fate Zero. I guess UFO Table does, or UFO Table. I don't know how they pronounce it.
UFO Table.
UFO
Table. They do have some solid production skill there, and they are able. We've joked a little bit about certain aspects of this series over the past week. One being the artsiness. This is, I'm going to just say point blank, this ranks up there with certain Makoto Shinkai films like 5 centimeters per second and Voices from a Distant Star, and with the Shaft production F, as one of the most pretentious anime I have ever seen. But I mean that mostly in a good way. But I will say this, that yes, if you come into it blind like I did, I was lost for most of that first movie.
In a good way.
Well, you were a little late with that, but yeah. I was lost for that first movie. I picked it up as I went, but you're still learning basic world building things about this series more than halfway through the series. It's one thing to hold things back for a sense of mystery, and we talked about like the order you're supposed to watch the episodes in, and the actual order they did it probably is good because certain things wouldn't have the impact if they had come chronologically or whatever. I get that fully. Holding things back can be great, but they were holding back basic world building well into the series. And I really think that they expected their audience to be familiar with the Fate series. I think that was an expectation. And any show that has an expectation like that, a lot of people right now complain about the Marvel universe for the exact same reason. Because at this point, there's an expectation that you've seen most of those movies with every new project. And this is like that. I got the feeling that they expected that you either familiar, maybe the light novels would have given you all that info, and maybe that was the expectation, but there is an expectation there that you've done your homework before you came to this show. And that hurt the series for me. But overall, what's that?
I don't know. I've seen a lot of the Fate series, and I was still lost.
Well, yeah.
It's the Fate series. You're always lost.
I don't know what parts you would need to go, but you know what I mean? Like a lot of anime do that, and it can be frustrating when they do. But all that being said, like I said, it was a top-notch production, and a few basic storytelling gaffes aside, it was interesting. And once I got to about that midway point where I got most of the world building I was going to get, we had been introduced to most of the characters. It got real interesting and engaging for most of the rest of the run. 2 episodes towards the end being the major exceptions to that. And we'll talk about those, I'm sure, when we get to them. But for a couple episodes there, it was on a roll. And do I think I'm going to want to shell out Aniplex prices for this? Probably not.
Oh, no.
I would love to have it in the collection, but I ain't paying a couple $100s for this thing.
I do want to say that just as a heads up for this,
Yeah.
if you buy the collection, you're only getting the first 7 episodes.
Only the first 7.
Yeah.
You'll be missing to be called out a summer set.
No, they did. Yeah, they did do that as a separate release, right?
Yes.
Okay. So there, a couple $100 each for 2 pieces. Screw that.
Well, you're looking at
if I'm
350 smacker, 375 smackers.
I was going to say, if I'm fortunate enough to get the whole thing for around $150, I would probably jump on that.
Yeah, maybe they'll release a full set one day.
What's that? Maybe.
Full set.
You never know. Aniplex is weird that way, but you know.
Aniplex needs to come out with a budget series.
They're not going to do that. I mean, they kind of. Well, they did with.
Demon
they
Slayer.
kind of had a weird partnership thing that allowed Demon Slayer to get a budget series, so I guess that worked.
Well, that's because they knew it was going to sell like hotcakes.
Yeah. And even that budget series, it was still expensive. But anyway, so that's enough of that. So my first impression, like I said, mostly positive. I'm glad I finally saw it and know what people are talking about, but I definitely feel like there was some things missing.
Yeah. Okay. Well, if do you like to add anything more, Kabuki Jake?
Nah, that's it for now.
Well, okay. Let's move on to Embryo Arts. It definitely is going to be something up your alley because this is a show that's really artistic in flavor. So, what do you have to say about the Garden of Sinners for your first impression?
Well, it is my first time watching. I, of course, as we did through our chat, kind of discovered this with Fate. The Nasaverse is far-reaching, and this is obviously the red-headed stepchild of Fate, where it's in the main world, but adjacent. And we kind of got in the connection once Clock Tower is brought into the conversation. Hello, Michael. But yeah.
Oh, Michael.
As a fan of Fate, yeah, I enjoy it. However, this is kind of exactly what I wanted from Fate for the past several years. And I didn't even know this was out. So I kind of want more stories in the main universe. And they keep diverting to offshoots that are just so confusing. So I like it. I feel it's more of a sort of semi-action noir with a little bit of romance in it than anything. That's how I would probably define this series.
Right.
So if you like a little bit of intrigue, a little mystery, definitely a ton of action and some of the goriest anime moments that I've seen. And
Yeah.
this was made in 2009 at the start. Okay. So the animation is very impressive, but it's UFO table. And they were doing unlimited blade works at the same time. So, yeah, you can see where the two sort of blended well with the animation style.
Well, okay. Does anybody else have any additional impressions before I give mine?
Well, I had forgotten to mention the gore because that is something that is always an issue for me with shows that have it. And yes, there are a few couple of moments that I had to look away. But I will say overall, a lot of times they did it in sort of an artistic way where it was much easier to take in than if they had gone full visceral. And I appreciate that they did that. It did get pretty visceral sometimes.
You're sure right about that. Well, going on with me. Before I even watched Garden of Sinners, everybody's right. There's pieces missing. I had already watched Lunar Legend Tsukihime. Tsukihime. I just can't pronounce it right.
Yeah, another one I haven't seen.
And of course, I had some quite a bit of knowledge of there was the female magician, the elderly lady with the red hair, Toko. So I knew what she was all about to an extent.
Elderly?
Oh, yeah, she's elderly.
Yeah. And when I saw the show being going to be brought to physical, of course I was elated until I saw the price. And I said, "Oh, no, I'm going to have to let off it because I didn't want to spend $550 at that time. I wasn't making enough money to do much of anything other than get bargain releases and such like that. And so, luckily later on I was able to get it. But my first impression I was enthralled. I said, "This is storyline. Oh my God, this is so deep, and it's so many different connections with the original Tsukihime. You know, in Tsukihime, you have a shiki. That's a guy that wears glasses what they both have in common is they have a special way of seeing things. And I don't want to go too deep because we're going to go into another episode. Going to talk about the episode, but I saw the connections there, and I saw the connections with the sorcerers and the magic system. And as I of course watched it again and again, I really appreciated that the 250 bones was well spent. My first impression was definitely surreal. I just thought this is something I have never seen before, you know, in this kind of capacity where you had so much storyline and combined with artwork. Because there's always seems to be something that's missing. If you get a large, spectacular, show, you're not going to have much storyline, or you have a lot of storyline, but not much to look at. So this is something that's kind of hard to thread the needle with at this story. But admittedly, everybody's right that this jumping in here feet first without knowing anything, I don't know if I made an error or not in my judgment. I thought everybody saw a lot of Fate and stuff like that. Oh, everybody saw Fate. Everybody saw this other stuff. This is going to be like everybody shoe in, but apparently there's a lot more to this. So. Again, my first impression was very positive. It quickly became my first and favorite anime, and it still is to this day.
All right.
Since I'm not too great at this, what was the next thing what I should do there, SeptumSin? What the next section I should be moving to?
Well, you were getting into characters. We could talk about them.
Sure. Let's start. Does anybody have a favorite character?
Well, I have one. It's called Haagen-Dazs. Strawberry Haagen-Dazs.
Yes, we all like Haagen-Dazs-chan.
Actually, strawberry Haagen-Dazs is fairly tasty, so I feel like strawberries.
I've literally been eating it the whole time we've been talking.
I was tempted. You had to say that as I was walking into the grocery store, and I was so tempted, but I was like, no.
I only bought the dollar size. The same size they show in the anime.
Yes, but...
Snack size.
Yes. Yeah. Well, of course, that is probably a decent segue into the main, I guess you could say the central two characters, Shikiryogi and Mikia Kokoto, because I think one of the first times you see them, he brought her a bag full, and she just looks at him, gives him like this, almost this, not quite a death stare, but this, are you freaking shitting me stare? Or she's just like, I don't like sweet things. It's like, But it's almost a running gag in this series, you could say, if there is such a thing as a running gag.
It tries to do humor at points.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's good, sometimes it falls flat. Like,
Hmm.
well, we'll get into the sister character later.
Actually, I got something to say here. A little bit about the history of this title. Yeah, it's part of the Fate universe. This is actually NASA's first work. They created this before they created the Fate. And they sort of put this into the universe when they decided to start making this an anime. This is sort of how they got discovered. It was sort of a web novel beforehand.
See, so we should have started with this.
Yep.
But you know, with that thing, the one thing I'll get into that at the when I talk about plot at the end. But yeah, those characters, the two main characters, to me, I admit they annoy me. Usually, I'm okay with the kind of bland main character that you can kind of put yourself in. If you call him a main character, I'd say Shiki is just as much a main character. But
They're co-leads.
Well, Shiki is the main character.
They both annoy me, though. They both annoy me so much.
Well, technically, Shiki's what, 3 characters in one?
Yeah.
Although we only really see mostly the one, which is just the cold, irritated one.
You get to see the guy version when he's almost murdered, but yeah, you don't. There's one that's predominantly active for the majority,
Right.
and that's that kind of monotone, barely feeling version.
The episode that I mentioned, that's one of the one that easily gets an art 10 for pretension is the 8th one. It's only a half hour long, and it's all a dialogue between the two characters.
Yeah,
it's all one scene.
It's specifically a dialogue between Kokoto and the third Shiki that we've barely seen in the series.
The friendly one.
What's that?
The friendly one.
Yeah. The really prickly one was actually the dominant female one, was my understanding. Was that
I mean, she's more happy and cheerful.
Yeah. Well, basically, as I understand it, and I guess, Roger, you're the expert on this series, but we can, my understanding is you basically had the female Shiki who was kind of ultra repressed, and the male Shiki who was the opposite, basically a free spirit. And he wanted to destroy everything. She wanted to preserve everything. And the third Shiki is basically the middle ground, the kind of chaotic force that ping-pongs between the two, essentially. But the male one is the one who is quote-unquote killed early on and only really shows up in flashback throughout the series.
In a good way.
Absolutely in a good way.
Mostly.
Well, again, Shiki as a character, like Kabuki Jake was pointing out, is a complicated one. She, he, it. It's kind of hard to say which one, the overall considered gender. But you have a female Shiki. That's the main one that we meet throughout the series, most of the series. She's the one that specializes in destruction. She has the eyes of death perception. She can see things as they can fall apart, and if she cuts those lines that where there's weaknesses in an object, it will fall apart. And there's different extremes in how far this kind of sight can help Shiki kill stuff. Killing poison is not above her ability. Racing somebody is probably a possibility when you kind of go to the extreme of it. Another personality was the male Shiki, and Shiki in this case is always in capitalized letters. Is a male person, a male kind of personality that's carefree, but also is considered the killer of the group. And he's the guy that has the ability to just do it, just kill the target, just kill. The third personality is more repressed. The third Shiki is not, she's mostly asleep, and she kind of keeps the barrier. According to her, I get that she has a deeper power there. She definitely has the ability to keep the two separate personalities in check. She's also deeply connected with the spiral to what the magicians call the root.
The origin,
I think she's some sort of god or kami, because I know she asked in that particular epilogue, what can I do for you? And she literally is telling them what she can do. Pretty much, who knows? But apparently she has a deep connection with the spiral, or what is known as the root. And the root is the collection of information that all magicians want in the Fate universe. All of them have the they want to get
origin. If you get deep into Fate, origin is the source of all magic. Hence the name Origin. So when they go on talking about Origin here, it's explained. It's basically the biggest connection to the Fate series that we get in this series. It's Origin.
Right.
Origin has some deep connections, and sometimes an origin can also be connected to a person finding something about themselves that are prevailing it. I mean, if a person was like the one particular character later on, he found that he likes eating.
Yeah.
So he found his origin.
And Shiki says that her origin was nothingness. Like that was her. And there's the one mage, Araya, is the one who's obsessed with the origin. And we see a little bit of him. But that was a good example of where I was talking about a valuable world building that might have been held a little longer than it should have been. Because I think that episode with him, it really explains so much that I'd been floundering about in the first couple episodes. So, just throwing that out there.
Again, it's what I've been wanting from Fate for years. Explain the world.
Right.
Well, there is a lot of material, so it does definitely just knowing what the girl's doing with the blade and why she doesn't use any guns. It's always been a wonder.
Yeah.
She wears combat boots with her kimono, with the red jacket. It's kind of an odd combination of things.
Yeah, it wasn't. Am I remembering correctly? Didn't she pick up the jacket after like a off-the-cuff remark from Kokoto or something like that? And
he commented that she looked good in red. Yeah, and she got that jacket. Now, notably, she got multiple of those jackets.
It's also apparently why he always does the strawberry Haagen-Dazs, because it's like because she's all about red. And I will admit, watching her do her thing with just the blade can be pretty fun. Some of the action scenes in this are quite good. And I'm going to say, as far as Kokoto goes, he is kind of he takes being a blank slate to the extreme. And yes, he is kind of a frustrating character. But
he's mostly asleep.
I'm going to disagree a little bit with Brandon about him straight up annoying me. I actually thought the way him and Shiki played off each other was actually quite interesting and amusing at times. And occasionally he had a similar vibe with some of the other characters. But get him by himself, and he was kind of sucked most of the energy out of the scenes.
the Miyaka, definitely Mikia is a person that seems to be very subdued, but he's kind of like the guy that works in the shadows in a way. He's like the investigator. He's going to gather
Shadow.
information. Kind of brave too. He definitely gets beat up in the series.
He's.
Oh yeah.
I hate to say it. NASA really writes two characters regularly, and throughout the Fate series, and he's very much the male character that he puts in there that goes off investigating and doesn't really play a larger role, with the exception of maybe Emiya from Bladeworks. Had a little bit of a more personality, but yeah.
His over-the-top pacifism annoyed me. It was. I understand him not wanting her to kill because he doesn't want to get to that point, but at the same time, that there is a point where it just goes like way over the top.
Yeah. Well, he doesn't. Mikia does not want Shiki, the female Shiki, to kill. He already knows that the other Shiki does.
Right.
So it's like I say, it was one of those things. I really think that this series could have benefited the English-speaking audience that is not familiar enough with Japanese that they don't really need the subtitles as much. For those who really rely on the subtitles, like myself, this could have actually definitely benefited me with a dub because I could have gotten it more. I know enough Japanese to know that, yes, even the sub is not an exact translation, so
Right.
I'm not worried about that. But
Japan's working on that.
But yeah, like I say, that whole. Yeah.
Just be lucky this is not Bakemonogatari. It's all about complicated convulsions and bends and twists with that show.
Well, that one actually has a dub. So
that's a minor miracle. I've never seen the dub on that show, and I'm bothered to try.
I don't think I've ever seen the sub. So.
Oh my god!
What I've seen of Monogatari, I've seen in sub, and yeah, it's pretty interesting.
But when the story is convoluted like that, some people do lose out because you have to pay so much attention to the words. I admit I'm not quite like Jake or some of the others and know enough Japanese that you can go almost without them, but need them like a.
No, I need the subs. I just have no problem watching a movie and reading the subs. That for me, that's not a problem.
Not when
anime gets wordy like this, I need subs. I may have been able to watch Dragon Ball GT without subs in Japanese, but it was Dragon Ball GT.
Right.
All right. Well, we did talk about Shiki. We talked about Miyaka. Amiya, Mikamiya. But anyways, there's other characters we can talk about. But in the scheme of things, to keep things moving along, there is a third kind of like major character,
right?
And that's Toko.
Toko has
and Toko is like the elder, the elder in the group. She seems to know everything, but never gives away anything. She's a magician, and she has quite a bit of knowledge that she doesn't tell much of anything to anybody. But she kind of hangs out and gives them like Yoda, to give them like a wise passage or something like that, or just decides to be kind of like, I'm not going to tell you anything, but I really like my video games.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't really get a Yoda vibe from her.
Yeah, she seemed more like I'm trying to think of the character, but it reminds me of just your typical female archetype of somebody who's kind of that laid back woman who does have some wisdom under there, but I don't know, almost in it for herself, but you realize she's not by the end type thing.
Right.
She comes across as just basically almost money hungry at the beginning.
Yeah, because she's so poor. At least she claims to be. I don't know how wealthy she really is or whatever. She claims to be poor.
Yeah, I was going to say there's a little bit of jet to her, like the kind of. Although she's She's like Jet and Faye put together.
But,
No. I can see her being poor. She spent it all on other things.
She's always buying relics and spending the entire company budget on the relics.
And some pot, some dish or some pot. And of course, Mikia is also always complaining about it finally made some money, but she spent it all on some pottery.
Because she's running a business, and Mikia and Shiki are on her payroll, but she's spending the payroll before it even gets to them.
Well, we also need to address...
Which is where the Fae part of it comes in.
We should also address Shiki's also in a payment form of new arms.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Well, yeah. Yeah, that's definitely something you gotta, if Shiki's not all the way human, she definitely had some parts replaced. And even as the show goes along, she loses some parts.
So, in a sense, it kind of talking about other shows. In a sense, she kind of there's a little bit of a Full Metal vibe there too, which is kind of fun.
It's always the left arm.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it also kind of reminded me, because this show, I didn't really get into genres myself, like describing it, but it is sort of there's a strong supernatural element to it, but at the end of the day, it is more of almost a detective series than anything. It does have a little bit of a noir vibe. Someone mentioned that. So a series I've really been meaning to get into, but I've read one of the books, is Jim Butcher's Dresden Files series.
Yeah.
Where you had the quote only wizard in Chicago in the Chicago phone book. I read Stormfront, and part of me was thinking about that series while I was watching this, and I'm like,
don't watch the TV show or the movie or whatever the tie-ins they did.
So I've heard.
Just read the books.
Excellent.
Just read the books. Great series, though.
All right. Well, to keep the story, I know that to keep the show keeping along, I suppose I guess we can start talking about some of the first episodes. I think episode 1. Let me see. Let's see.
That's the one with the suicide girls, right?
That's correct. The first thing you see is a fun fairy tale kind of sing along, and you see some mysterious girls, floating in the air. And of course, you get introduced to the main girl, Shiki. Mm-hmm. And she can actually see stuff, that other people can't see.
Mm-hmm. And this show had the weirdest subtitling, just really weird subtitling. But I think it had 2 or 3 names, and I don't know what IMDb calls this one Overlooking View. ANN shows the Japanese title with Thanatos at the end. And I feel like both of those were part of the title that Crunchyroll put up. So I don't know what the official title is. Well, the official title
Overlooking the View, Thanatos is episode 1.
The official title is Gekijoban Kara no Kyokai Dai Isho Fukan Fuke. But anyway, since these are all individual movies, technically they have their own titles, but the translations for them were so weird.
Let me establish something. They're not theatrical movies. These are OVAs. So those who are thinking, hey, these played in the theater, maybe one, but most of them are OVAs. So they're direct to video.
One of them is 2 solid hours, and one of them's an hour and a half. And the 2-hour one...
2 of them are 2 hours.
I thought only one of them played.
One's 155 and one's 2 hours and 2 minutes.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And then there was one that was an hour and a half. And then
Yeah.
you're right. 2 of them were half hour, and they screamed OVA. Those 2 really felt like OVAs. And I was like, I know these were not theatrical movies.
This
But,
whole series is OVE.
yeah.
Um,
That's good to know.
I mean, this is UFO Table when they were making their name for themselves. Before they hit the Fate series, their biggest series was Ninja Nonsense, which maybe we'll hit one point.
I love that series. It's a classic. Also, actually, you know what?
Oh,
I
strange
found
to think of the
I found-
connection.
I found a connection between Ninja Nonsense and this. The stop motion scenes.
Yeah.
The ender for Ninja Nonsense.
Yes, the Ninja Nonsense with the popsicle and all that. It was one of the best enders I've ever seen. I love it.
It is an interesting show because, like everybody's pointing out, what their favorite part is the stop motion sequence that almost, like what 4 or 5 of them have. Various various
but 2.
violations of the
All but
theater
2.
rules. Like no smoking, don't
Yeah.
talk, no flashlights.
But
It
the
was-
little interactions with the characters that are hilarious. Like, where you'll see Shiki and then he puts his hand on hers and then you can see the little blush come on her face. Just like
Right.
little cutesy bits. And it says a lot with no words whatsoever. It says, I would actually be willing to put forward that the stop motion scenes say more than a good half hour of the dialogue and
You definitely get the romantic moments in the stop motion.
Yeah. But yeah, they do start out with like a series of PSAs, and I think they go through like 5 or 6 PSAs, and then they do just a couple character bits, and then they disappear for 2 episodes, and then the final episode has a real brief stop motion that's just like a cute little scene of most of the main characters, and it's just
And
kind
then
of
some.
a ender.
A few others. I mean, as we noted, Ren Tosaka from Bladeworks is in there. / Fate Stay Night. I just refuse to acknowledge Fate Stay Night itself because of horrible subbing. But
Well, again, all I've seen really is Fate Stay Night, the original series, and I've seen the movie that goes with it, the Unlimited Bladeworks movie. And then, so
you need to watch the UFO
Yeah.
Table.
That's,
Bladeworks.
That's a sticky situation because the Fate Stay Night series was actually a PC game, and it had 3 legs to it. It had the Fate leg, that had the Unlimited Bladeworks leg, and then you had the Heaven's Field leg. And
Right.
the first show is mostly the first leg with a little bit of the third leg thrown in.
Right.
But
Yeah.
So there's two different routes of the same
Basically-
basic story.
It's 3 different endings. If you get Tokusa, if you get Arthur, or if you get Sakura. That's the division. So which one Emiya ends up with is where those paths divert.
Yeah. So the good news is that Fate Stay Night was well animated. Later on, I think UFO Table did the Unlimited Blade Works. I thought it was simply a way superior show. They also did the Fate Zero, as well as the rest of the show. Pretty much.
Fate Zero is my favorite of all the Fate stuff that I've seen.
Oh yeah, it's
We
pretty
get
heavy.
writer. We get one of the best writers.
Yes.
Well, yeah, it's a very heavy series. It's like everybody likes to talk about Fate because it definitely did change quite a bit of perception. Before we enjoyed Sword Art Online, we had to enjoy Fate first. So I had a lot of
It's
fun.
still better than Sword Art, with the exception of Alicization.
Well, in my book, it is better than Fate is better than Sword Art Online.
Yeah.
Of course, an overlooking view. The main plot is, and in the beginning, we can of course get introduced with the main characters. We also find out there are young unconnected high school girls are suiciding off a particular building. They're just jumping off for no particular reason.
They leave notes. Just vague notes.
The police are not able to see a connection. Let's put it that way. Toko sees a connection, but
the police are mostly not oblivious, or either clueless or oblivious to the whole series. They don't.
The police let killers just go.
One of the things I thought was interesting about this one, and I can see its connection to Fate, but what's weird is that it felt more like the world of Index than it did, where you've got your mages and you've got your people who are kind of mutants that have these powers, and it almost feels like that without all the futuristic like cityscape. But I'm sure a whole world wasn't that futuristic cityscape. The whole world was an academy city, essentially, I believe was the city. But, it had a lot of similarities to that for me, too. I was looking at that and thinking of it from that perspective with the sorcery school and so on. Because there was a sorcery school in Index.
Yes, he did have it had a sorcery class, had a sorcery school, he had a sorcery place. And much like what Index has, this place has a sorcerer kind of like university called Clock Tower. It's where all the magicians that have any kind of magical power go to learn their arts, and then spread out around the world and find a city that they want to kind of like look over.
All conveniently?
Yeah, very conveniently. Very convenient.
And they have a guy there that has big scissors that walks around.
Well, Clock Tower in that particular case was a horror show or a horror game. Clock Tower almost comes envisioned is in London or in England somewhere, and probably in England somewhere, and all the critters go there to find out what their place is, and there's whatever magic people that understand magic go there.
I know they're offshoots of Fate that kind of cover it, but seriously, come on, give me some Clock Tower anime.
Well,
the third Clock Tower game might as well have been an anime.
Well, you do get that in Ambient Arts. That's called the El Matroy.
Yeah.
And that's basically Clock Tower. If you see another branch, see that. You'll probably want to see that anime. It goes more deeply in the Clock Tower, and you see more of the masters. And
I still gotta figure out Alpha, whatever the one with Mordred and freaking Elf. Oh, I'm forgetting. The one that has basically Hitler or Dracula versus Nazis. Serious.
Are you talking about the Apocrypha?
Apocrypha. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
They have the team of black and a team of red.
It's supposed to have occurred during the Third Grail War.
It was some sort of Grail War somewhere in the middle of nowhere somewhere. And I don't think I think it's just in a pocket universe.
It was Nazis, from what they've told.
Yeah, well, Nazi pocket universe, always good stuff.
Yeah. With Dracula.
Hey, you can't have a Nazi pocket universe without Dracula. It just doesn't make sense.
Fate.
As the story
what
goes
have you done?
We eventually find out. I guess we've been talking a lot about the characters. We eventually we find out that there is a mastermind that's making all these girls jumping off the building, right? And it turns out about this girl that's basically terminally ill. She has the ability to project out her spirit and then call out in a manner, hypnotize certain people that come closer and then jump off the building. And of course, the reason why she's doing that is to gather friends because she's lonely. of all things.
I mean, I thought that was an interesting way to start. Matter of fact, it did pull me in. I'll admit, if they started with, say, like, let's just go out of order and start with episode 8, I'd have been like, yeah, screw this. I'm not watching this anymore.
Well,
You
episode
couldn't
8.
start with 8.
It's like it was chic. It was let's see. I always have to get my brain together. Let's see.
2 would be chronologically the first one.
Yeah, 2 would be the first
Yeah.
one.
Because it gives the backstory of Shiki.
Ah,
And in truth, I think that the story, I would have actually probably gotten into the series a lot more if they had simplified it just a little bit and made it more into a Monster of the Week series with some plot development between the characters as they went.
I'm still confused with episode 2. Having watched all the series now, did she actually kill those people? Because they kind of make you mess with your mind, saying,
Yeah.
no, she didn't kill them.
I'm guessing that it wasn't her, but the male Shiki that killed them.
well,
No,
no, the
they're
male
saying-
Shiki was already dead. That's
They were saying, yeah, somebody else did it.
yeah.
Like I say, that series gives me a headache.
I'll admit that was something that threw me for a bit when we found that the revelation later that one guy, the Devourer, had been kind of
The killer all along.
Yeah, that was kind of a weird, like, that's not how it went down, you know. And the whole thing where they started making a big deal about, well, I don't want her to actually kill. Like, Makia started, I don't want her to actually kill. And I'm like, wait,
She's been killing all this time.
Yeah.
Don't forget that Shiki from the beginning was a trained assassin. You know, and to protect herself, she had developed certain multiple personality disorder. So one would be responsible for the murders. For when she fell in the coma, that's when she developed her eyes of death perception, death perception,
Right.
where she can actually carry out her task a bit more efficiently than she did before. I mean, she was deadly before, but now she was definitely doubly deadly.
Well, she got the guide. Basically, it showed you where to cut.
Yeah.
This particular kind of like series, this eyes of depth perception was. I first became aware of it in the Lunar Legend Tuscahime, where the main character Shiki is a male Shiki. It's male Shiki had the same ability. And he can cut along certain lines and make things fall apart from just fall apart because that's where the weaknesses lie. But anyways, on the we find out that the bedridden girl, she was the one that was causing all these people to jump off the building. Shiki actually does cut the spirits. So they get separated from the earth, and I guess they go floating to the sky, or they go where they want to go to. I guess I don't understand that part, but I know that Shiki does cut through the ghosts, eventually confronting the girl that's bedridden, and confronts her. Was able to confront her and send her back to her body, and of course. She eventually at the end of the episode does herself jump off and kill herself. So this simply there's very little, there's a certain amount of humor in the show, but a lot of the show has to do with either depression or have to do with death, quite a bit of that, or
It's a lot about personality as well, finding your personality, which is why we have the split personality of Shiki,
Right.
and even the sister trying to discover her personality in a sense. So yeah.
Yeah, it's a show about finding yourself. Which
I'm
actually,
killing a lot of people.
And then after finding yourself, like anything else, there's still a bunch of parts that were left over.
right.
Just gotta pick them up and get a wizard to attach them again.
It's like, maybe I need to rebuild this. Nah, it'll do okay with those parts.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Good enough. Let's call it a day.
We probably need to move a little bit quicker.
Yeah.
If we can look at these in a more broader stroke, maybe.
It's probably better to approach it in a broader.
Let's do broader and see what goes on with it. If go ahead, SeptumSin.
Well, I mean, as I was saying, I mean, most of this was about the background between Shiki and me, the M guy, annoying guy, and about their relationship as to how they went, a lot of the origin, and there were certain areas of the story that I think really stuck out. I mean, there was the part at the beginning where he basically camped out on her doorstep to the point where the killer comes out and she's ready to show that she is going to kill him, but gets stopped last minute, resulting in the coma at the end.
Yeah, she for some reason runs away and gets hit by a car.
Right.
Well, I believe that
It's by a truck.
Yeah.
Truck.
So it started as a light novel, got hit by Truck Coon. If she had just gone to another world, it would have been Isekai, and we'd have been there. But I don't know. That's an interesting little angle. You had the one that I thought was sad because it kind of ended very quickly was the relationship between the kind of preacher guy. Basically, it was the female owner of the company's former classmates, and her against each other, a sort of wizard battle thing. And I thought that was an interesting way of doing it. Of course, it ended really quickly.
You talking about like with Araya and that other dude?
And because they're only like it was the subject of one of the 2-hour episodes essentially.
Was that who was the other guy? His name was, I don't even remember his name.
His name was Deadbeat. He died rather quickly.
He did die
from being introduced.
Yeah, he died rather quickly. Araya was a much bigger part of the story overall, but I almost felt like the third guy was just like a hanger-on, like almost a stooge for Araya, because he had this obsession with Toko, like and then
Roger, you've seen more of the Fate series. Do we get any more with those three?
I mean, with Shiki
and the mages, the 3 mages.
Oh, okay. Well, the only place where I've seen them, the other mage at was there was some mention of them in the original Tsukihime. There is no more talk about the female Shiki that's in this show anywhere. The other wizard that was in charge of that was trying to recreate a yin yang building, he never reappears. Even though his voice is, they find him in different other characters in the Fate universe.
Right. Yeah, that's a fascinating building. It's very interesting.
You can talk about the building.
Concept was great, but honestly, that's where UFO, you kind of got some points deducted. You made it a penis building. you made a tower with 2 smaller buildings attached.
The tower in itself was really interesting because one part had to do with everyday life to an extent, and the other part had to do with all about death.
Araya was a great big dick, so it makes sense.
Yeah, he wanted to find the root right? And the way to find it through the root was finding this, weird event that would happen by combining these, the scene of death and the scene of everyday life together.
I mean,
how they died
Red,
and their death.
Red must have sucked in that building.
Well,
He
sure
got built twice.
But the thing was the ever repeating cycle of the same day that they died in. So that the half of life was a repeating death sequence. They start out alive and then they eventually died, and the other side was the actual dead people.
But you keep getting built.
But he kept on being resurrected and started like a movie over and over and over again with that same clip. Got Groundhog Day over and over and over again.
Yet they still keep going up on rent.
That sucks. I mean, just the idea of you're dead and you have to keep reliving. But mind you, in the anime, they didn't realize they were repeating. But
no, they didn't.
That would have sucked if you were conscious.
Well, there was that one dude who was forced into that realization.
Oh, the one guy who broke free.
Yeah.
I just don't understand how he broke free. He just one day decided to walk off.
Part of me thinks that it was intentional, that it was a lure to get Shiki to come there.
Pretty much.
Because I believe that was his intent, was that he was using him basically as a way to get Shiki in there.
Yeah, so it could have been a simple matter for Araya to kind of nudge him
over her body.
Take
over her body, see the mystical side, use her mystical eyes to see the origin of the universe.
Yeah.
Yeah. How simple, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, well, the building was very interesting. At least I tell you what, if I were to be so bold, I do my overall favorite story in the whole line was the remaining sense of pain. It's about that a young high school girl that somehow loses her ability to feel stuff, but eventually, through certain external stimuli would manifest her telekinetic abilities to kill.
That's one with Fuji no Asagami, right?
The blue-haired girl in our image here.
Yeah.
Purple
played by Mamiko Noto, who shows up in the final episode blind and still kicking ass.
I think she even loses an arm. She was lying down on her body.
Yeah.
I think she loses an arm and loses her sights.
Yeah. So that was an interesting. I thought that was an interesting one, and you did kind of feel for her a little bit. She was doing some really messed up stuff though, because she had
It's still there?
Hello?
Jacob, you want mute?
What happened?
You went mute.
Was I talking on mute?
Yes.
I think so.
Well, basically, that was an interesting story. She had the ability to she had the ability to screw people in a very unusual way. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
And it must have been a horribly painful way to die. It really.
She could really screw you.
Yes.
Yeah. She it was even to this day, it's kind of hard to watch how she would twist off the guys' legs and arms one at a time to make them talk. And she was pretty ruthless. Ruthless how she would just look at and say bend or twist, and then their arm will go off, kind of crunch, and flip off.
I'm just imagining it right in my head.
And then she will eventually kill them by twisting off their heads.
Yes, you do.
Yes, you do. But yeah, it was. Like I said, that was some interesting. There were some visuals in that one that were a little rough, but.
Well, it's also an interesting study of what Shiki can do with the eyes of depth perception. Now, it's not all about just slicing a piece of wood off into pieces. She can actually whatever she can conceptualize killing could possibly be killed. So what's her name? Mamiko had a problem with her appendix. It had ruptured, and she was slowly dying. And Shiki does save her life by killing the poison that was seeping through her body because the burst appendix. That's what she did at the end when she stabbed her. And she could do other things too.
Yeah. And she doesn't need blades. We learned that later. She can use rulers.
You can use rulers to open up to cut apart locks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is very interesting.
Actually, I will say that out of all of it, the school episode where they're hunting down the fairies is my favorite episode. It does bring the creepy brother love thing in it. That, by the way, was the only thing that kept Omiyai, I think it is, or how do you say it, Jacob? You're the one who pronounces it all.
I think you're talking about Oniai, right?
Not Oniyai.
Oremo.
Oremo. Yes.
Yeah, Oniai was the one that everyone said sucked, wasn't it?
Well, I say sucked. I don't know. I loved it.
Oremo was the Aniplex release. Yeah.
But yeah, the that one. That's the one thing that kept that from actually being a great series for me, was the fact that that woman was his actual sister. And they ended up together at the end. That just,
Yeah. I deducted points, as I stated, for the sister love in this. It's a little more tolerable since he's not a sister, but it's the cousins. They're
come
cousins.
on. It was a pure love between a sister and her
Part of
brother.
it is that he's oblivious to it.
Completely.
It's still in Tokyo.
oh my goodness.
Yeah, he was completely oblivious, and Shiki was not completely oblivious, but Toko was the one that totally, she was almost laughing about it. She was like...
I mean, we get the picture of sister love. Seriously.
Yeah. I think you went supersonic there, Brittany. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Talk about what's up with Oblivion recording is where they're at the high school with all the Catholic, like a Catholic high school, and there were stories of people losing their memory or burning to death.
I mean, I liked that episode overall, though.
Yeah.
Other than the sister love angle, the rest of the story was really good. I mean, I thought that it did a good story. It didn't get too high on its own supply like a lot of the rest of the series, and I felt like I could follow it fairly effortlessly, yet still felt like it was well written enough that it felt clever. So it was real. Like I said, to me, it was one of the best episodes of the series for me.
And you had that one, the mage in that one who basically, I think they called him, what did they call him? The word mage or whatever it was?
He was the guy that could do his magic work through words.
Yeah. Well, basically, he just spoke it, and if you believed him, it was so. That was his downfall, was you had to believe him. But it was interesting. Yeah.
Like I said, I thought it was great because you got to see different types of magic being used. You had a magic battle at the end with the sister who used the flame magic. And you had the fairy magic, which was also pretty impressive. And it had that almost Akira-ish moment where the one kind of grotesque fairy goes out of control and all that stuff. It was, like I say, it was really fun. I enjoyed that with the mystery. I feel like if there were more episodes like that in this, I probably would have liked the series a lot more.
It's a good length, too. I think it was one of the hour-long episodes.
Yeah, I mean, it was enough. It got the point across, but it didn't overstay its welcome.
Yep, it was 58 minutes.
So that one was probably my favorite. The only other one that I would say is a highlight for me was the part of the last episode of 10 where she's taking care of the cat.
Yes. So
Yeah, she didn't know what to do with the cat, and the cat didn't. The only was hanging out because he had to, and he wouldn't want to go with Mikia.
yeah.
Oh yeah, the cat really was bonded with the guy, and he didn't realize that as much. And she was like, "This cat is bonded to you. You need to keep it." And he's like, "Nah, mother."
Just be an asshole and say nope. No, I don't want to be friendly.
This is one of the interesting things in the series that, again, I guess, Brandon, you must have found it kind of frustrating, but I think in my mind it was a source for humor, and that is that Mikia is essentially, for all intents and purposes, he does detective work. He does information gathering. He does research. Like, he is the guy who finds stuff out, and he is pretty good at it. And yet, when it comes to relationships with anything or anyone, he is totally oblivious, and he is involved. He doesn't remotely catch on that his sister has the hots for him. He doesn't really get exactly where Shiki is coming from most of the time, although he comes closer with her than anyone else. And he just did not get the cat at all. That cat loved him, and he didn't have a clue.
Again,
was basically sitting there waiting for him to come back.
Yeah,
that's the Nasaru writing of male protagonists. I mean, we kind of see that with Emiya. We kind of see that with, I'm trying to remember the father or the main male lead in Zero. He was oblivious to love. Each of them, pretty much along the way, is that way.
Well, the other part about the oblivious is that the guy had no real sense of danger whatsoever.
Oh no!
He was in part the other episode that was long. He just standing there, like, I will win back my friend's heart. And his friend is now this murderer cannibal. Like,
well, yeah, he had found his inner self. It's like it found other people to be to its liking.
He's like, I appreciate your actual interest in having me back, but I'm going to kill you right now. That's the.
I just had a thought, like, not so much with him, but with Shiki. Like, how many times does she say she's going to kill him? And so I just was reminded of the line in The Princess Bride, where he's like, every night he would say that, good night, sleep tight, I'll most likely kill you in the morning.
Conceivable.
My favorite part of him being so oblivious is him going down the back alleys with heroin in his pocket, talking to people.
Man, that was not heroin. That was marijuana.
And LSD.
No. It was heroin.
No,
heroin in the paper was heroin.
LSD is what was the translation I saw.
According to the translation, it was LSD mixed with marijuana.
Yeah.
Which made it one of the most addictive substances known to man because marijuana is so inherently addictive. I'm like,
no. They created.
They had the special blood strip one that was mixed with the guy's blood. That was the one that was supposed to be, particularly potent. And
trust me, those stamps are not heroin. Those stamps represent LSD. That comes from somebody who professionally deals with the stuff.
It's ridiculous. I mean, given Japan has very strict drug laws.
Yeah.
So seeing them represent drugs in this series, it's just like, no, that's not how drugs work.
That's super addictive marijuana that they have out there.
Now, if it had been heroin, they'd have a point there. But, yeah.
Well, they definitely made a big deal out of it. So, wow, I thought marijuana was supposed to be fairly harmless when it comes to the higher end stuff.
Normally.
Marijuana by itself, yes, but when you combine it with other drugs, it will amplify them.
Now, I wouldn't say that would make the LSD addictive, but it would probably, I don't know.
No.
Whether it would amplify that or not.
Give you a hell of a
The
kick.
marijuana is highly addictive. He stated that he bred this marijuana to be highly addictive.
I don't know what he bred it with, but whatever.
We don't know.
Technically,
nicotine.
technically, marijuana is that family is the same family that hops come from. So, if he found some way to combine hops and pot together, I could buy that. Maybe.
Let's put it this way. It's a world of magic. He found a way to infuse magic into marijuana.
Life found a way.
Yeah. All you need to do is just mix nicotine in and you got your tobacco situation, except with the
Right.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway.
Nicotine is probably one of the most addictive drugs on the market. So
anime and drugs. Man, anime and drugs.
Huh. But yeah.
But I think that, I mean, out of all of them, I think that they were all very high production value, except for episode 8, which had got to be the least expensive episode they made in the entire series.
Oh, no, I disagree with you.
Well, yeah, it was gorgeous to look at. There's no doubt about that.
But there was very little animation. It was a bunch of still shots with background animation.
No, it was constant movement.
It's because of the snow.
Watched. It's just very slow, minute detail.
I mean, it was snowing through the whole scene, so I'm sure that was a big part of it. But
trust me, trying to animate snow, and I tried to see a loop, and I did not see one, and that takes a lot of pain in the ass work.
I think it might have a point for it being maybe one of the less expensive ones because there's only 2 voice actors and it's only a half hour long.
I mean, yeah, on that it's cheaper. But I mean, the whole point was to bring a closure.
Yeah.
In that episode.
Mostly, it was not about the animation that episode. It was about the constant exposition. It might as well have been a text crawl for all I was.
It was basically
reintroduction of the third cheeky personality. You finally find out who the third person is because you meet her first in the beginning. You know, in the beginning of the whole series when they meet on the snow. You know, that was the first time Shikia had meet up with that particular Shiki personality, and then you finally get to find out. You know, finally get to really meet the third Shiki in that particular OVA. It was I would tell you, man, it was beautiful, and it was like, it did drag on because of all the talk. I want to get some more action going, but it was the whole purpose of that was just to introduce the third Shiki.
It was the knot tying. I mean, it's a lot of the conversation is to link pieces throughout the episodes.
Yeah.
So
like it explains Shiki's gaps in her memory, which she's been wondering about through the whole series.
That's true.
There's that. It's just straight up talking heads though. It's really like I said, like Brittany said, it's not static, it's stuff happening visually, but it pretty much is a talking heads episode, no action, just wrapping things up. And I'm kind of glad they didn't append it to the end of the previous episode because that would have brought that episode down. But I'm not so sure they needed to do this by itself as a standalone either.
If they spent a lot of budget and time into the animation for that, that was a waste of a lot of money, because it really was a tech scroll. Because for somebody like me, I'm not able to. I have to, when it's that much text that you have to absorb, that's all I got to see. I got to see a little bit of the background of them talking. Didn't see much action going on. Just them talking back and forth.
What would have been a great idea? What would
This
have
took
been a
3
great
years to develop. This whole series.
I was going to say that
This
episode.
is even longer.
what would have been a great idea, I would think, would be, especially because episode 9 really kind of steps out and focuses more on other characters. And we'll get to that in a minute. But episode 10 is 3 10-minute shorts. Just back to back to back. And so we mentioned the cat episode, but there's also the episode where I think this is the one where Mikia meets the girl
the future.
Shizune. No, that was
Short brown hair.
No. So no, it was the one where Fujino meets what's her name? Yuki, I think it was. No,
the future predicting girl.
But she meets the girl who thought that she killed one of the girls from the first episode.
Oh, the ponytail girl. The twin ponytail girl.
Yeah, twin tail. But so there's that, and then what was the third one?
Third one was the 3 girls together. The sister and the other 2 girls.
Okay. Oh yeah. Okay. So basically, you've got part of it does kind of fall after episode 9, especially with Shizune. So they might have had to tweak it a little bit. But what I'm thinking is, if they had combined the two, the epilogue and those little one shots, and kind of split up the epilogue between, it still would have been kind of weird, but it would have, both of those were really weird episodes to begin with. And I don't know, maybe that would have made one more interesting episode than the 2 separate ones.
Personally, I feel 9 is the weakest.
9 has got weird ass pacing issues.
Well, 9
Yeah, that's what kind of makes it weak. Is it goes back and forth in time.
Well, 9 felt like a real side project. It did not feel a part of it.
It's kind of like watching that Memento show from Christopher Nolan.
I love Memento. But no, this one was like, you had Mikia meets Shizune when she saves a guy from tragedy. And Shiki is tracking a serial bomber. And both of them are episodes that revolve around precognition. And there's sort of a weird, like, are they happening concurrently? You kind of realize that no, they're not. But the exact spatial time frame is really weird and hard to figure out.
It's 10 years in the future.
Yeah. No. The end of it is 10 years in the future, which is another weird part of the episode.
No, part of it, middle of it is 10 years in the future. Because the end, we go back to the beginning of the very episodes.
Well, no.
Because we go all the way back to
very
Shiki.
end. The very end. The last 2 minutes. Yeah. Yeah, so I'm thinking, I was forgetting it was 3 parts. Yeah, but the third part is so short, but it's a fun way to tie it back. But yeah, you have this thing where you have the
And all of this occurred before episode 7.
Right. But then it skips ahead 10 years to the future where the bomber, and I will admit, when Shiki destroyed his precognition, that was kind of cool. Like, she basically was able to grab it out of the air and stab it, and he lost his eye. just from that. And that was kind of a weird, cool thing to see. But we skip ahead 10 years where he is basically a children's author barely scraping by, which is a weird turn of events.
Picture books, children's books.
That has a 10-year-old girl
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
fascinated by him.
Yeah. Who we come to find out is basically mini Shiki.
Well, it's Shiki's daughter.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
In a good way.
In a good way.
No. Let's keep the pedophilia also out of the anime. Come on.
I don't know that that's necessarily where he was going with that, but
Yeah.
but yeah, and you can tell she's definitely seems to have traits of both of her.
Her parents.
Yeah. But the old seer who was introduced in the first part of the episode becomes a major part of this episode. I will say about this episode, I was very intrigued with the way they described precognition. It was a very different take on it than I've seen before. And I kind of liked it. I thought that was very interesting. If they had structured the episode better, it would have actually been a pretty cool episode. Or this would have been one where it would have made sense to do an hour long and then do a half hour following it instead of trying to put it all together and call it one episode. That would make much more sense. But
I had a hard time with that episode. One, I had to watch it in different parts, which is how I watch a lot of stuff, is because I try to watch it during downtime at work when I can. And if we're busy, I'm watching these in like 10-minute segments. So my train of thought just gets really slow. And then that last episode, it was a busy day today. And that's why I was like, I'm not sure I'll finish it. Because I was constantly losing my train of thought and having to get over,
Oh, yes, of course. Sometimes I lose my train of thought. One time I missed the train because I was looking at a girl.
You just lose your train of thought. But that's the thing, is I totally got lost during that episode. I'm not gonna lie.
Okay. Well, and that's it. The three parts. Eventually, it comes like you eventually find out that Shiki and and Mikia they get married, they have a kid.
did they really explain?
Actually a 14-year-old that 10 years later becomes more of a responsible adult after losing society.
Did they really mention Mikia at all in that episode, other than her talking about her daddy? Because
Nope.
I got you could tell from the way she acted and from the way she looked that Mikia was her father. And of course, the fact that Shiki ending up with anyone else just wouldn't have made sense. It would have violated the entire series up to that point.
The fact that Shiki is the boss of a crime family.
Yes, I thought that
It's
was
like out of nowhere.
It was what?
It's just out of nowhere.
It was kind of out of nowhere and not entirely, because if you remember,
The lady
isn't her family already a crime family? Wasn't she?
was already so.
Yes, she was like Yakuza people.
Yeah,
Right.
she was
And-
Yakuza. It's just
And Toko, she also mentioned Toko was that lady magician. She
Yeah.
said that her time there was too long, so I bet she had left by that time. She had left, and Shiki and Mikia had moved in, and the crime family moved in with them.
okay. Yeah.
Well, I guess let's move on so we can get through. We're over time, so we should definitely move forward.
Sure.
Anything else on the plot itself?
Well, there's a lot to talk about the plot. Anything I can talk about? Oh, the whole series. Basically, it's either, like I said, the whole series is all about either a supernatural slice of life show that has quite a bit of blood and gore in it. But
Slice of life is a weird way to describe this series.
Yeah, this is very much slice of life. Or unless you're saying slice of life, cutting it.
The episodes in episode 10, especially the one with the cat, that might be kind of a slice of life vignette.
Yeah. I would actually put it almost similar in a lot of ways. There's only one other series that hit me quite like this, and that was Gasaraki, where I was surprised. Gasaraki actually has some pretty decent production value to it. It looked really good.
This is more
once
interesting.
they got the mecha stuff going, but it was extremely plot heavy. And by the time we got to anything going on, at least this one actually got someplace. Whereas Gasaraki just kept talking until you realized you fell asleep. And then when you woke up, the action had already happened. And I was like, damn, how long did it last? 5 seconds. Oh, darn, I missed it. But as far as the plot heaviness, Gasaraki is one of the few I remember that had that much plot thrown at me at the same at once.
Yeah, you have 2 separate plot lines in that one too. 2 main ones. Yeah.
But I would say this is an interesting, like I said, a lot of a mystery element. I do think, I don't know that I would agree that Monster of a Week format would have been better for this. I do like the fact that
I think X-Files.
A little bit.
I could see.
X-Files, though, did have its long-running stories with... So, yeah, something like that with...
X-Files Fate Edition.
X-Files what?
X-Files Fate Edition.
Oh, there'll be one eventually. But, we mentioned the production a lot. Would it be a good time to go ahead and do a last thoughts on that?
I have one more thing to say about the plot.
Okay.
And if you do drugs, you go to hell before you die. Please.
And that's from Mario himself.
Damn straight, Mario. Damn straight. Most people wouldn't know. That's the first Mario.
Best Mario.
Is that so?
Lou Ferrigno, the first Mario.
Captain Lou.
Captain Lou, yes.
All right.
Now production value.
Well, they were higher than that show.
Yes. Well, actually, they were very high. The production for this was amazing. I mean, I'm not an animator. I don't do this stuff, but even my blind eye could see how amazing most of the episodes were, except for episode 8 for me, which I admit I was only able to pay about maybe 40% attention to what was going on the screen other than the words at the bottom. So I wasn't really looking for minute animation details. I was trying to read.
Well, like I said before, I thought they did a really good job with the fight sequences. They were very, very fluid. Watching Shiki do her thing was a lot of fun. But yeah, most of the fight sequences, you could tell they put a lot of effort in. I think
put a lot of effort into drooling too.
Into what?
Into drooling for that.
Oh God! Oh God! That scene.
That was a little disturbing.
They put a lot of effort into animating that drool.
That was something.
I hate to say I'm bitten. I didn't like it then. I don't like it watching it. Oh.
And I also, like, in terms of like the character design and whatever, they were like relatively appealing designs that were just distinctive enough, but not. I could see the similarity with the Fate series. Like I don't know. Those of you who are more familiar with that series, you know better than I would how much overlap there might have been. But
you can see some similarity in the art style, at least as far as I'm concerned. But enough that I'm not really attaching them fully.
Yeah. Oh, one other aspect of the plot that I meant to mention, I want to mention real quick. Did anyone else kind of get superhero vibes from this series with the fact that most of the characters die at least once?
A little bit. But it's anime. It happens in anime as well.
It's like you had at least a couple of moments where major characters die and they make a big production of it, and then no, they were only joking or something like that.
I stated, I know in our Facebook, that this would be about a 9.5 out of 10 on me for animation. Now, to understand how much issue there was with competition in the year this came out. So it started in 2007.
Yeah.
The big anime of 2007, Darker and Black, Gurren Lagann, Claymore, Naruto, Mononoke. Not Princess Mononoke. The anime Mononoke.
Mononoke. Yeah, the supernatural show.
The Ayakashi spinoff.
Yeah. So
Right.
you had some big names going in there. And Gurren Lagann would just beat this series in animation, in my opinion. Because it's Trigger. It's the beginning of Triggers.
Right. I'm just looking at some of the others that were contemporaries to this one as well. This would have been 2008 would have been the year Toradora came out. 2009 was the year for Full Metal Brotherhood. You had some really good stuff going on in that time frame.
Spice and Wolf.
Yeah, Spice and Wolf, yeah. And then both Death Note and Code Geass were 2006. So you had, Spice and Wolf is, what actual year was that one?
I will gladly go on a record.
2008.
Animation-wise, not that great. So.
Which one?
Gurren Lagann. I mean, not Gurren Lagann. Code Geass.
Yeah, it's
not
not
that great
quite as good as some
animation.
of the others. It's good, but not as
Decent
good.
story. Not great animation.
Now, I think that one was made by Sunrise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Code Geass is actually in my group too. I like it.
If you really want to put some money behind it right now, you can get that fancy set right now. It's still
For $500, you're out of your mind. For some chess pieces. Heck no.
If you think about it, though, you are getting quite a few series out of that. You're getting the two main series. You're getting the OVA series. You're getting the
a new one. You're getting a new one.
And you're getting all the movies. So that's quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess I could just buy it and wait for about 5 years and then charge $10,000 for it on eBay and get my money.
Which you could. Just get two. You get two, then you wait just a year and you'll get your money back for both.
Roger, there's no need to wait. You could charge $10,000 all you want. I don't know if anyone would pay it, but
you guys go ahead. I'll get the Chinese knockoffs.
Actually, there is a company based out of, I think it's Malaysia, that I know has a good, affordable knockoff for Promised Neverland. But
all I know is I can get all of Gintama, $80 on eBay. Now, mind you, the DVDs alone for the series is like $200.
If you can find them. Yeah. That's a big F. Of course, the other thing we got to mention with this one that has been briefly mentioned is the music. Background music by Yuki Kajura And I think, didn't they have a different ending theme for each episode, basically?
Different ending
Most,
theme. I'm looking at it right now.
they're pretty much all by Calafina.
Yep, they are.
And yeah, they were good. They were at different levels. Some of them were great and some of them were just good. But overall, I thought they were all really great ways to end their respective episodes. And overall, the music in this was pretty solid. So I give it points for that.
I have to admit, I kept skipping the endings.
Ha.
It was just a black screen and text.
Yeah, there were no visuals, that's for sure. They really skimped on the visuals for the endings, but
Yeah.
although some of them did have like a little mini scene at the very end, like
Yeah, I would just jump to that.
Yeah.
Crunchyroll at least has gotten to the point where if that happens, it'll be like skip credits.
yeah. But yeah. See, I traditionally do not much care to skip them. And in fact, when we do next month's, which I guess when we're done here, I'll let y'all know what next month's is. I'm going to go ahead and say right now, y'all better not skip every single opener. And there's a reason for that, but we'll get back to it.
Well, you know, I don't do that, but I skip them. I skip them if I know they repeat enough and I don't like it. But I always catch a new one that comes because it's important.
Right. So, what else we got?
That
Well,
I mean, production overwise, general, great. I mean, final thoughts.
So, Roger, you kept asking us what our favorites were. This is the part we traditionally do it in the show. So I'll go ahead and say my favorites were the stop motion characters.
I would say most of my favorite was just any of the stop motion stuff. I loved all of that. From the way the characters were done, it was hilarious the whole way through, and told cute stories in between. I liked it,
especially
low way animation, and they prefer stop motion.
Right. Well, I think particularly Shiki was kind of just great in those episodes, but yeah. But as far as the main cast goes, I do like Shiki and Toko, both as characters. I think they're both pretty fun. And the cat was fun.
I like the cat.
Well, from the major characters, I like Shiki the most. From the secondary characters, I like the girl that can twist stuff. Her name is Fujino Asagami. I kind of like her the most of the secondary characters.
I'm gonna go with Shiki. Well, no, I forget what's the redhead mage's name again. I forget her. Toko. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Toko more than Shiki because Shiki had just that cold personality through most of it. And side character, I'm gonna go with the eating villain, the one that ate the bodies.
Yeah.
He had a lot of great personality and chewed up the scenes, literally.
Literally, yes. He chewed the scenery. Actually, I guess it is. You could actually say Shiki is 3 different characters, and if I wanted to be specific, I'd probably say male Shiki was probably my favorite of the bunch. But the point of origin Shiki was also pretty interesting. Female Shiki is probably my least favorite of the 3.
Favorite scenes?
Let's see, favorites.
You mean besides the stop motion?
Well, you said stop motion. Brandon said stop motion. Roger, what's your favorite scene?
Well, to tell you the truth, my favorite scene overall was the scenes where the girls are floating in the air singing. I like that scene most of all.
I'm going to say seriously, if we're talking like the main series itself, I'm going to say maybe that explanation of precognition. I actually found it really interesting and weird, and so maybe I would point that out.
Do you have a serious one, Brandon?
I kind of like that fight scene between the sister and the fairy girl.
Oh, yeah.
For me, I'm gonna say the final battle where or the room when they get into the room of the spiral before Shiki sort of erupts out of the I'm forgetting the villain's name in that part too. But
Soren.
yeah, I mean, huh?
Soren.
Soren, yeah. So I mean, I love big, elaborate scenes that just show. Because I mean, you see each of these brains and this fluid tube, and there's just like millions of them, and it just makes you think how many people are actually in this building.
Hundreds.
Yeah.
So it's pretty full.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's an amazing detail, and I loved it. I love it.
Well,
Plus any action scene. Action scenes were just bomb here.
well, with that, I'm going to turn this over back to SeptumSin. Thank you very much for watching The Garden of Sinners with me. I really enjoyed the ride again. I appreciate it. And thank you,
Thank
Septum.
you.
Well, with that being said, I guess we have reached the end of another Anime Anticlimax episode. I hope you all have enjoyed this run with us. We're going to run down through and see what other people are up to in the universe. Of course, our site is due to actually show stuff on it in the future, which is something what we've been doing for the last 6 months or so. I've been actually upgrading my gear a little bit. I've been talking actually through a Yeti mic, believe it or not.
Cool.
Don't know if it sounds any clearer or not, but Mo felt it did when we were on
It does.
Schlockaholics. So I'm trying to do some upgrading there, but I've got some stuff that's going to be going, and Jake and I are going to be filming an episode next week. So that's going to be fun. Jake, did you have anything fun going on other than what we're already doing?
Well, you know, the usual. I'm just keeping fairly busy, but with this, that, and the other. I just got back from a lengthy road trip, first time ever in the state of Delaware. So one thing knocked off my bucket list.
Wow.
You had Delaware on your bucket list?
States I've not been to are on my bucket list. So yes.
Okay.
And I would like to, and I actually saw a lot of really cool stuff there, including a couple of my first wild cranberry. That was another thing on the bucket list. But it was a very cold trip, so it's kind of nice to not be doing that for a little bit. But yeah, just, you know, doing the usual. I try to. I did make time for one of these episodes while I was on the trip, but definitely that did make it interesting trying to schedule them. But yeah, it's a good. You know, I like to join these fine folks to talk about anime, and of course, I also do the movie channel where we did our retrospective this week. So check out Inside Movies Galore to find out all the movies we talked about last year. 3-hour episode, so I recommend you watch it in 3 parts. But it's anyone who's curious what kind of stuff we talk about over there. That's a good part.
we covered a whole year worth of films, and I think we'll refine it again for next year.
Yeah.
Reform the rating system, still keep it simple, but keep it to where we can make a rating and a simple statement and move quickly. But yeah, I thought that was great. So Roger, you doing anything in particular that's special coming up?
No.
Well, I mean, again, if you are a big collector, you should check out Animazing on Facebook, because it is a wonderful community. I have I admit it is one of the few anime Facebook communities that negativity has not taken over. I mean, it is fairly positive. I've not seen a lot of arguments on it. Haven't seen a lot of really nasty statements. People are usually fairly genuine and not like nasty in the comments. It's actually a pretty pleasant place to be, and I'm sure Roger had something to do with that. So I'll give him all the credit for it.
Oh, thank you. Okay. My name is Roger. I run an Animazing collection company. It kind of started out as my vision as the ultimate collector's site, where all the collectors will come together and show up their wares. But it has been changing a little bit. I do like that people generally are nice to each other. We do have interesting discussions every so often, like what happened today on the discussion of AI taking over anime translations.
Yeah.
That's gonna cause some ripples through the group. I may say so, but for myself, I really enjoy everybody's company on Animazing. I must admit, I have a certain amount of pleasure finding out what new I can collect out. What a new piece of information I can try to find. Like Brandon had an interesting one with found an ancient site that had the most rare anime they could find at that time. Of course, it got me insatiably curious. But I was running around trying to find all the extra anime that this one was ambiguous and kind of lost in the Atlantic kind of titles. It was pretty successful finding most of them. I thought these things were supposed to be extremely rare, but they seem to be very easy to find. I don't know what it is. Maybe I got lucky on that. But I tell you what, I know I'm trolling my crow, but I generally really enjoy my people come and see me. SeptumSin, I know you're a regular partaker. SeptumSin, and Kabuki Jake, I see you both come on in. Always, Brittany, India Arts, you're always welcome to join. Always.
Oh, I'm on there. I just don't jet sometimes.
That's all right. We have workers over there that come out of the woodworks every so often and pokes out and say, "Hello, here I am." And I said, "Oh, I try to make a big production out of it." But man, it's always a pleasure seeing all my people over there at Animazing.
Well, so Brittany, what you got going recently?
Well, we just started yesterday, coming back on stream with the new year with the predictions of our doom for this year. We covered a bunch of predictions of death and destruction, but we're also going to be covering my choices for the top anime of 23 tomorrow night. On our stream. We did have some technical difficulties on Twitch last night, but we're going to try and fix that. But yeah, we're back up and running. We're going to be doing comics and streaming 4 nights a week, every Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And 2 art nights, 1 game night, and our anime night. With probably some interesting stuff coming up. 23 is going out the door. 24 is coming in. Trying to put together my list for the first few anime of 24 to watch. So
I don't normally keep up with them, but I admit I got into Zom 100 this past year, and that was a really good one.
Yeah, sorry for those who loved that had to wait for the series to end.
Yeah, it was kind of sad. We get up to episode, I think it was 9, and then it was like, Oh, we ran out of money.
I've been through that for a couple of shows for the last 2 years, mainly due to COVID causing shows to be delayed. But we're going to talk about the better shows. Vinland Saga is going to be one. It's top. It's kind of hard to not say Vinland Saga Season 2 is not the top of the show for 2003 or 23.
Too much stuff to watch, not enough time to watch.
Right.
Yeah, there's never enough time to do anything these days. There's
Speaking
work,
of-
sleep, and go back to work again so you can sleep some more. Yep.
Speaking of, shall we go ahead and throw
Yeah,
out next month?
Let's talk about this year real quick. We're going to divide it into 4 quarters for the 4 core members of this anime group discussion group. And each quarter of the year will actually has a birthday in it from each member of the group, so it works out really well. Whereas Jacob's is in the first quarter of the year, I'm in the second quarter of the year, Brittany is in the third quarter of the year, though we kind of hit back to back. At least I'm in the last part of the quarter and she's in the first part of the quarter. And then Roger is in the last quarter of the year. So for that time, for each quarter, one member of this group will have control. And Jake is in control of the first quarter of the year.
In control.
February and March one. And your first pick is?
We're going to be doing a 2003 release from Bones Studio called Scrapped Princess, which is a fun action-adventure fantasy series that's also sort of a post-apocalyptic series. It's got a little bit of drama in there, a little bit of comedy. It's a nice and fun show that's very different. And it has a notable place in my heart. And I'm going to say straight up, before we go into the month, to our music snobs, there is no excuse for skipping every single opener for this series. You have to listen to it at least once. And the reason why is the opening theme, Little Wing by Jam Project, was a song that I was very familiar with before I had ever seen an episode of the series. And the song is specifically why I sought out this series to watch. It's probably the first show where the music popped into the show. So it has a very notable part in my history of anime for that. And I still think it is a badass song. So I am going to declare that is homework, to sit through that at least once.
Wow. It sounds like I should skip it after all.
But anyway, yeah, so that'll be the first one we'll be doing.
All right. Well, I can do Scrap Princess.
Cool.
All right. Well, with that being said, I hope you all enjoyed this. If you did, click that like button, click that subscribe. We've actually got I am serious about us actually updating a lot more often this year. So if you can, check it out. Look out for more and more news about Amityville Webcam. It is done, and we're just right now. I'm shopping it around for some people to produce it, and I also am shopping around for self-production because I'm pretty sure that self-production is what I'm going to be doing with that. So we shall see you all on the next one. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye all, and Happy New Year.